Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. Mike is still indisposed with current home ownership struggles, which several of us have experienced and are currently experiencing and will experience in the future. So, Mike, hopefully you are on your way to mending those floorboards and pipes, and you can take over this flagship program soon. I'm Stead, and I will be hosting again this week. And we're going to have a bit shorter of a show this week. We're going to just do a bit of a roundtable discussion just to discuss the quarterfinals of Champions League, and of course, some things going on in Europa League. Get our lower league reports from Chelsea Mike, considering that those races are really getting hot. We're seeing who's going to be qualifying for playoffs and who's going to win automatic promotion. I'm sure there's lots of eyes on this side of the pond about whether Wrexham's going to be able to stay in their current position or if they're going to be in a playoff round. So, and then G may come on and talk about a little bit of the Arsenal Bayern game. And I know Rob will be here to give us a Bundesliga report because even though we've spoke extensively about how Bayern's going to lose this season, there is actually a hot race going on for fourth for their Champions League spot between Leipzig and Dortmund. So we'll be chatting about those things, and then we'll touch a little bit of Premier League, but I think we still have a lot in the weeds with Premier League that we really don't know what's going to happen with that yet. I think this weekend's going to be a pivotal weekend, so we may do a little bit of previewing there. But I'm very happy to be joined by two of our most trusted and regulars. We'll start with you, Chelsea Mike. How you doing today?
If I could unmute it, I'm good, Stead. Sorry. How are you?
No problem.
I didn't know you could drag these little bubbles around. How about that? Neat. You learn something new about Zoom every day.
Yeah, well, they keep updating. I get a new update every time I seem to log in.
I know. Yeah, me too.
And of course, we're joined by our Liverpool and Eastern European soccer man, Professor Matt. Welcome to the show, my friend. How you doing today?
Where we live.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, those of us who have been in education or have returned to education, such as myself, we are wrapping up our school years coming up very shortly. So I know we're all looking forward to that. So let's talk today, though, about Liverpool basically deciding that they're done with Europa League in the quarterfinals by losing 3-0 to Atalanta, excuse me. So, Professor Matt, what is going on? Did he play his kids? Is he punting? What's going to happen with this?
It's not punting. This has sort of been coming, and here's a stat which I've been worried about for more than a little bit. In the last 22 matches, we have kept 5 clean sheets. And that is also with Allison involved. That's borderline diabolical. We've been getting through on the fact that, and I said this earlier in the year, this team reminds me a lot of the 2017-2018 vintage Liverpool, where the defense isn't terrible, but it is a clear weakness, and we have to score 2 or 3 goals for me to ever feel comfortable any given week. And by and large, we've been doing that, and that's credit to the squad that's currently assembled. I would argue we've probably slightly overachieved this year, but you've seen this in the last couple weeks, and I don't want to necessarily dovetail back to Old Trafford, but I guess I have to. In the chat, what did I keep saying? Wastefulness, wastefulness, wastefulness. This whole flopping 3 to 4 chances in the first 20 minutes of a match and then going down 1-0, like, this is the script now. And the problem is, a month and a half ago, we'd somehow turn that around and the match would end 2-1, 3-1. We're just not scoring goals at the moment. Now, is part of that the personnel out there? Yeah, we missed Diego Jota in the worst possible way. I've always said this, Mo is the volume guy, and I don't know if you can replace that volume. Darwin Nunez creates chaos, but he'll score a wonder goal and miss 2 sitters in a match. I still can't figure out who or what he actually is. Jota is our little Portuguese poacher, and he's been missed, and so he's been out of sorts. I'm not sure if Mo's fully recovered from the injury he suffered at AFCON. He looks off, and he's doing that thing which he's gotten better at. But when he first came to Liverpool, I noticed whenever he went on international break, he would try to do too much because he was Egypt. So it was like, okay, just defer to Bobby, defer to Sadio. You don't have to take all these shots. He seems to be doing that again.
Mm.
And today in particular, it was sort of a microcosm of offensively, this team looks flat. Is this pressure? Maybe. I don't know. A lot of it's fatigue. I see dead legs out there. Byron Rob just sort of joined, so I'll give him his flowers. At the beginning of the season when we got Endo, we were all like, who the F is Endo? And Byron Rob was like, you're gonna like him. Byron Rob was right. But this is the problem with having a 30-year-old Japanese man and no other pure DM because he looks spent. He looks like a 30-year-old at the moment. And this is the club glory or, farewell tour, but everyone is open to criticism. He got the tactics wrong today. The substitutions made zero sense. And what I mean by this is, okay, you want to rest Salah, I'm fine with that. You want to move Gapco out to the left, I'm more than fine with that because I think that's his natural position. Nunez is having a bad Darwin day. Take him off. Cool. Why move Gapco to the center where he hasn't played well and where I think he's playing out of position? And at first I was like, okay, well, Diaz is on Jota's on the bench, but he's like ceremoniously so. He's not really helping. But then you do bring him on after 10 minutes. But because you've shifted everything around so much, he's playing number 10. So your most clinical striker is playing furthest from goal in what is now a weird front four. I don't know. I mean, it seemed like those were panic subs and not particularly well thought out subs. And look, I can kind of understand the logic of bringing on Sabazalai because we lost control of the midfield. More about that in a second. Elliott, who was playing out of position, arguably was the best guy on the pitch in the first half. And he's normally an 8. Why don't you just take Jones off, put McAllister at 1/8, Elliott at 1/8, and then Mo where he actually plays? Why? And it's weird. It's the end, but I feel I have to vent frustration about this. Look, Klopp's been awesome, but one criticism that I've had with him throughout his whole tenure is he has this tendency. You have kids, Stead. When the kids are little, they have those things with the blocks and they're shapes, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's a specific shape, and that fits into the specific place. Klopp did not have that toy growing. He's compelled to take dinosaurs and try to fit them into goddamn sheep shapes. We're not playing the sheep shapes in the sheep shapes. And he did that with the subs today. And I was like, by the end of the match, I was like, what is this? The most frustrating thing about this match was when the draw came out, I was like, this isn't going to be as easy or straightforward as it seems. Atlanta's a very solid team. And they're weirdly deep. Like they were able to bring on guys like Alexei Moranchuk, in the second half. And he starts for the bottom half of the Premier League.
Mm-hmm. Also, European competition is nothing new to them. They've been in these competitions for years now, so they're vets. They know how to do this.
I am not like G in so much that I am Mr. Italy. Far from it. But part of my family's from Naples. I have a love-hate relationship with the Italian national team, partially because my family's from the South. I understand what that means in the context of Italy. Part of it too is I'm not a white supremacist, and I remember Mario Balotelli and all of that. So that still is kind of for me. But I root for them. I was happy, 4 years ago when they were in the Euros. Scamacca. This is a West Ham reject who left West Ham because he played too many video games. I'll remind you of that. He played too many video games. Who, as someone who does have some rooting interest for Italy, this is saying a lot. I hope Immobile goes on one of his purple patch kicks in May, because then he'll make the team. And even though he sucks, purple patch Immobile is better than Scamacca. I don't want him on that squad, so we might have the chance of putting him in a match. When Italy played Ukraine, which is like watching like my two children play, as soon as they brought him on, I was like, this match is over. Like this guy can't score. He's a telephone. He scored not once, but twice. And both of those goals were just bad. They were mistakes. Like the first one, he was surprised he scored. So that's frustrating. And a lot of things that I've seen sort of coming really caught up with us today. And it sucks that it occurred. And I would have taken this over the weekend as opposed to now, because this is that other trophy I thought we could win. And now I'm really, really doubting that.
Well, that was my concern. I was wondering if, because it looks like Champions League is solid for Liverpool next season, and look, the great thing about winning Europa League is you're guaranteed Champions League spot. Yeah. But it seems like it's easy to kind of get your foot off the gas. But if you look at the other teams in the competition, these are teams that have been very successful in Europe as well. I mean, you have Milan and Roma. You have Benfica and Marseille. You have Leverkusen.
Who doesn't want to lose.
Leverkusen looks like the best team in continental Europe right now.
And let's be real. As much as we slay West Ham and David Moyes, when you get him to knock out football in Europe, he becomes the second coming.
Well, I was just about to say, they've won a European trophy.
Yeah, he has
won. And I believe they either semifinal or final the Europa League 2 years ago. So West Ham is look, the final 8 for the Europa League can look, or the final 4, excuse me, can look like a Champions League final 4 if you just exclude the fact that Real Madrid won't be in there. But there's a lot of big clubs in this competition. So yeah, it's not impossible for a team like Liverpool, who is clearly, when you look at just on paper, should be the quote-unquote best team of this 4. I would say at the beginning of the season, or this 8, when you saw how this was going to stack up. Of course, now we know it's probably Leverkusen, and I'll let Rob speak on that a bit more. But it looks like they look done. Like they do. They look done in Europa League, which is sad. I actually had Liverpool pegged to win this. I don't want to say easily, but at least final without too much of a concern. So
especially because I guess we landed in the easier side of
right.
the bracket.
Right.
Yeah, and the rational side of me, and that kicked in an hour after the match, after I had life-fulfilling pizza and could go into academic brain, was like, in some ways this shows us, because remember, when the season started, I was tenuously optimistic about this team, but I was more doom and gloom.
Absolutely.
I was like, we're halfway in a rebuild, And I think that's really showing. This is a better team than I thought, but there's a lot of work to be done. And maybe we want to discuss this because Rob decided to put something in the chat this week, which I think is interesting. Maybe it would require selling a major piece to help fuel the rest of this rebuild. Yeah. So I mean, we'll see. We won a trophy. I'm happy about that. I would like another, but going into this season, my expectations were top four, a trophy, and improvement. I've seen that. But we'll see what happens because I think the story of the league's going to take a couple twists and turns before it's said and done.
Can I just interject
Please jump
for
in,
a
Chelsea
rebuild,
Chelsea
Professor
Mike,
Matt?
this
For
is
a
your role is
rebuild.
to interject. Just interject. Come on.
For a rebuild, you're in spitting distance at the top of the league. You've already won a trophy. You're not in a rebuild. You're having a good year. I want like everyone else on this show. Oh, Man U. Oh, we're so terrible. Oh, Arsenal. We probably aren't going to win because we never do. We're in 10th and we suck. Okay,
Bro,
like
you won Champions League a
good.
year and a
They're
half ago.
doing
I don't
good.
want.
Your
I
team,
think
like everybody on this show. Oh, all we did was win the treble, and like we really should have won the quad.
Now,
Like,
look,
teams are doing good.
look. You
but
will never compare me to Man U fans.
and Mike, I have to say this. I think maybe we have to measure the rebuilds. We had to rebuild our freaking midfield.
You did.
You guys, for a variety of reasons, it's a total relubrication, including parts which you may or may not have needed. So it is a bit different, but yes, point taken.
Right, and you did an excellent job of rebuilding. I mean, I think that's potentially what could be missing with Klopp.
I think that is the key part of this. If we had, let's say, another specialist DM and maybe one extra defender, and I mean, if a certain Egyptian man has to go this summer, so be it. But and I said this in the chat, we have attackers. We are extraordinarily left-sided centric. If Mo doesn't play, your starting right winger or our starting right winger is Harvey Elliott. That's a problem. Like there's a big I like Elliott, but I don't think he's a right winger, or he's definitely not a right winger in this system. So there are some clear holes. But yeah, I mean, we've overachieved. Again, when rational brain kicks in, I'm like, this isn't too terrible. But when you get this far, this late, come on, Mike, you get greedy. You want more.
But don't Chelsea Mike.
It's like the
hold on.
church kid, Nick, and it's getting towards the end, and there's still some pierogies there.
Okay,
you fucking want more.
But Chelsea Mike, we're coming to you to talk about Chelsea in a minute because there's things that I've observed that I've noticed lately about that squad, and I'm not sure you guys should be complaining that much. You can be mad about this season, but we all know what Chelsea does. How Chelsea likes to go like this, and so there's a reason why I said if Arsenal doesn't win a trophy this season, that's a failure. And there's a reason why I said the one game that I feared was, as Professor Matt knew I was going to say, was Chelsea. So we're going to get to y'all in a minute. But before we jump into more of the domestic league, let's go ahead and get a recap because we did have a title happen in international football recently. We have the United States winning their 175th international trophy. I'm talking about the U.S. women's national team. So I'm going to turn this over to Chelsea Mike to recap the tournament as the women won the She Believes Cup, and to see is, it seems as if the squad is a bit younger than it's been recently, and that's as I always think that is a positive sign when you're giving the younger talent, especially, when you have some of these women who have 200 caps, it might be good to let some of the other ones kind of get some burn in there. So that's a good thing. So Chelsea, Mike, go ahead and recap that tournament as the U.S. won their seventh She Believes Cup.
Right, yeah. Seven out of 8. It is the She Believes Cup presented by the U.S. women's national team for us to give ourselves a trophy. Yeah, so it's still, United States, and as the rest of the world catches up and women's soccer becomes more competitive throughout the world, I think this will still be better. There were 4 very, very good teams in this competition. United States took on Japan and beat Canada in the final and did not have the liberty to play Brazil. But all those teams are World Cup sides. They're very, very good teams. And as we saw right in the beginning of the first match the United States played, which was against Japan, Japan went up in the first minute. I will talk about Chelsea, about a team that can just give up. But the U.S. didn't give up in this match. And it was a grind to get back in against Japan. Jaden Shaw scored the equalizer, one of the great young players who's coming up, who's getting playing time now, and showing herself here in this tournament. And then Lindsey Horan slots home a penalty for the winner. But Japan were tough. United States had a balance of the ball, and Japan they did not look like they were going to give up that winner until they did. Rob, let's bring you in. How about some thoughts?
For the Japan game, I thought like after the quick goal that really shook them. I think they definitely looked better in the second half. And you definitely like seeing some of the younger players play. Definitely love seeing, Jaden Shaw. Like I just said in the chat right now, Jaden Shaw is the best player on the wave. Sorry, Alex Morgan fans, but she's a rising star. And she just asserted herself. And then Lindsey Horan was, the problem with Lindsey Horan is if you see her lately, her knees all bandaged up. Like she looks like a prize fighter, but instead of punching with her fists, she's punching with her knees. And she actually got a couple matches rest over at Lyon, so she was ready to go for this tournament. Thank goodness, because she definitely looked much livelier than before. But Japan's always been a team that just doesn't quit. They're always like in it, and I love watching them play. They're just so inspirational. And then you can tell the U.S. like, they're not going to run over teams anymore. Like the world has caught up, and they need this extra level of oomph and talent that we're seeing displayed by the Jaden Shaws, the Sophia Smiths of the world. And so those are the wins that help teams grow, and they're going to need these. They're going to need the younger players because come the Olympics, it's a quick turnaround, quick matches. It's a much shorter roster. I think it's 18 players, 19, something like that. Really small. So they're going to need to grow quickly here altogether, and it's good that Twyla from Orders by Emma, Queen Emma, has given the younger players a shot here to grow a little bit, and they showed it in the Japan game. So I liked how they came out of that. I like definitely you can definitely see them learning to combine together. You can see some saws from Trinity Rodman, which is nice to see. And then they set themselves up for a good matchup with Canada, and that was an interesting one, to say the least, with Jen and penalty shootouts.
Yeah, I would say a lot less soggy than the last time we played Canada.
Thank God.
If you didn't watch it, it was on a waterlogged pitch where the ball was literally stopping. San Diego apparently did not build their stadium to manage rainfall that well, unfortunately. But yeah, this is another match in Canada. They're as their men's team are growing into the undisputed number 2 in CONCACAF. Their women have long been,
Mm.
and have always been a challenge for the U.S. women's national team. I think the proximity fuels the bias, but U.S. went down early in this one. Rob, they give up a first half goal to Adriana Leon. But again, we see the U.S. women's national team show some resolve here. And this time it's not Jaden, it's Sophia Smith who becomes the hero. She's another young star emerging on the U.S. women's national team. I don't think really she was, I don't want to say utilized incorrectly last year at the World Cup, but we certainly didn't get everything that we could have out of Sophia Smith.
Yeah, no, it's always been a tricky thing with her because she plays kind of like a left-sided striker per se. She's really good off the ball. She doesn't do the hold-up play, but they were sort of asking, they were not asking her to do what she does best, which is she's playing off the combination. She's playing off a good midfield, running at defenders, nothing with her back towards the goal. And so, she and she's had a little bit of a rough go in the early season at the NWSL, but then then she's just been fantastic. She's always like a threat, like anywhere on the pitch. She's just you gotta give her give her respect because like if you just give her an inch, she'll take it. And she scored a couple goals here, and yeah, it's she's the highest paid player in the league, rightfully so. She's gonna definitely make bank when her contract is up in a couple years again. Uh, this lineup was good in general. I like the lineup. You know, with Smith and Morgan kind of together. That was I enjoyed that. And yeah, so like and then you ended up in penalties because of a wild sequence with Canada getting a penalty later in the game.
Kind of a soft
Very,
penalty,
very,
wasn't it,
very
Rob?
soft, very, very soft. But technically, it's by the rules. It's a foul, the box, blah blah. Um, and then
We're going to talk about Chelsea in a second too.
yeah, go on.
Yeah,
Let's talk about
no, but yeah, no, you clip someone's foot in the box. It's a penalty. It's going to be a penalty. So yeah. We get to the penalty shootout, which is fantastic. It becomes the Alyssa Nair show. Alyssa Nair stopping penalty. Alyssa Nair stops a penalty, saves a penalty, then stops another penalty. It's like nothing I've ever seen. It's a goalkeeper's dream right there.
yeah, and the best part of it is after she makes her penalty, then she walks like doesn't celebrate, just walks like a stone cold assassin back to her line, and then saves the another penalty. So, um, yeah, definitely earned, keeper of this mini exhibition tournament. Um, she's sort of now redeemed herself a little bit to keep the number one, because for last season she was awful in club form. She was terrible. She's been a little iffy in club form this year, but not as bad because Mal Swanson's back, and so now she won't have as much to worry about because the defense has to respect Mal over there. But listen there, just just a fantastic keeper and penalties, man. That read almost everybody correctly, even the ones that she didn't get her hands on. And the U.S. has their last match before Queen Emma of Chelsea comes and arrives and bestows her royal coaching highness upon the United States in June. So, yeah, bye bye Twyla. Hello, Emma.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the last question. How do you think it bodes for the U.S. women's national team for the Olympics? I've got to say, I think there's a lot of interesting lineup questions. Where, you know, where do you put number 16 when she's healthy? Does Lindsey Horan stay at a 10? I think there's a lot of I think that there's a lot of questions, but I do like that the United States has won their last two tournaments, and and I do think it bodes well going into the Olympics. Now, keep in mind those European teams come back when we play in that. Rob, are you afraid?
No, I'm not. I'm not afraid. I have all faith in Queen Emma. She's gonna, she watches the league. She'll bring in the best players, and it's gonna. I'm gonna tell you, this camp cut is going to be very, very cruel to some deserving players. There's a lot of young players here, a lot of deserving players who are going to be in really good form in their leagues, and then they're not going to make the roster. And so I think Emma's going to bring in a nice, 25 to maybe 27 players and cut it down by the end of it. And I think, and there's no room for like bring a young player in. It's about versatility. And so you're definitely gonna have probably Crystal Dunn over there. You're gonna have a Jenna Niswanger who can play multiple positions. You're gonna have a Horan, obviously, captain, who can play at the 10, and can play almost at an 8 or a 6, all over the midfield. Um, so the question is, there's some players on the fringes like an Emily Sonnet. Is she gonna make the cut here? I mean, she made the World Cup, but didn't impress too much. She believes, and Sam Coffey's right there, very close to winning the MVP last year, and right there for the taking as the Julie Ertz that we know and loved, from 2019. And Jada Shaw's going to make it because she's just fantastic. But there's a lot of, Roosevelt might not make this roster. She's still hurt. She's very brittle. So there's going to be some fan favorites who are not going to make the Olympics, and Queen Emma is going to be cut like a surgical knife and figure it out. And I trust Queen Emma. I can't wait for her reign to start.
And I do too. And I just want to get one last plug in for women's soccer here as we wrap it up. On ESPN Plus this weekend, FA Cup, you want to see Queen Emma. You've got Manchester United taking on Chelsea on Sunday. That's on ESPN Plus. So check it out. Support your women's side as well. Send it back to you, Stead.
Well, speaking of ESPN and sports covered on ESPN, let's switch to the Bundesliga really quickly because before we get into Champions League and the Premier League, I do want to, I go through the leagues and see if there's any compelling races going on, and I can say one that looks interesting, Rob, is who's going to get that fourth spot in Champions League. It looks like the top three are pretty solid. I mean, Leverkusen's running away with the league, and then Bayern and is it Freiburg? No, is it Freiburg? No, it's Stuttgart. Yeah, right. They're both on 60 points. But then you have teams that are much more in the lexicon of who Americans might be aware of, which Dortmund and, of course, more recently, the Leipzig are both sitting on 53 points for that fourth spot. But I think Dortmund's got to be feeling pretty good because even though they were unable to pull out a win, they're going to be at home and in Champions League. So, and they're in the quarterfinals, so they have to feel like a stronger side than Leipzig. And they seem to have made some moves over the past couple of years that have been beneficial for the side. So, but how do you see this playing out as the Bundesliga season wraps up?
Pretty much, you're gonna have to wait till they face each other on Saturday, April 27th. That's when Leipzig are at home versus Dortmund. Besides that matchup, Dortmund actually had the easier. Dortmund I think had the easier schedule. They have. It's a brutal stretch right now. They have Gladbach coming up, and then you got Leverkusen. Only league wide. They have the second leg with Madrid, but we're not talking about that point. But they got Leverkusen, they got Leipzig, and then the last three matches are very easy. But the race might be over by then because it's that Leipzig game that's going to matter. And Leipzig, on the other hand, they have Wolfsburg, who just sacked their manager, Niko Kovac. So they might get a new manager bump, but I think Leipzig will win out there. Then they have Heidelheim. Then they got the game with Dortmund, and then they got Hoffenheim, which is Bremen, and then Frankfurt, who's going to be in competition. They might be still fighting for a spot in Europe. And so I think it's Leipzig's spot to lose, in my opinion. And then Dortmund just been uninspiring. And, I'm just confused. Like their players are just like Emre Can does not belong as captain. He belongs on the bench. I'm sorry. And then
you agree with that, Matt? Professor Matt, you agree with that?
There was a time when I was but I got off Emre Can pretty quick.
So did I. I thought he was great for about a month, and then I was like, I don't know about this guy. Not hating, but
Riddle. He's Mr. He is German, Turkish, and Rob, you would appreciate this. You're a fellow Yankees fan. He's Jacoby Ellsbury. He gets hurt, and then he's one of these slow healers where he'll come back, but he's not healthy for at least another 5 months. He's not that guy. And that just seems to be the story of his career.
Yeah, and it just, and they're like, they didn't make him captain. I'm like, captain? I'm sorry.
You can't just make the oldest guy on the team who actually plays your captain.
But
you can't do that.
But see, you can't even say that, Stead, because Mats Hummels is still.
That's true. Mats Hummels is still there.
He is the oldest guy on the squad.
Yeah, Mats Hummels, somewhat throughout the year, he's channeled into Fountain of Youth, but more often than not, he's showing his age. And then like Greg Kobel, who, by the way, is the best player on Dortmund. He saves them like points.
I'm actually, because I've watched enough of them this year, I will say this. I think he's the most underrated goalkeeper in Europe.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think he's a find, and he should have been captain, but I think Terzic just wants an outfield player to be captain, and I don't know. I don't think it matters anymore in this day and age, but I didn't like, some of their players like Fulkrug's been kind of like, you thought he was a goal scorer machine, and then he's kind of tapered off. Sebastian Haller has been like dry. The dude beats cancer, great, fantastic, and he had a good couple of months in the last year, and then that's it. He's like used up all his energy. Adeyemi's been kind of a sort of a bust, but he's still young. And Dortmund, they're just uninspiring. They're like like. You thought they would give something to the Madrid game, and then the problem is that with Champions League games, they like to sit back and counter, and they could do that with the best of them. But the problem is Atletico Madrid also do the same thing, and they will pound you as they do it. And then they're just and Simeone is a much better tactician than Terzic. I'm sorry, it's no comparison. And then, Leipzig, on the other hand, you thought they would be competing for a title here. And they, I think, them trying to rinse and repeat, selling players, and then trying to replace them, it doesn't always work. Sometimes you find players that they can't replace a Guardiola, a Sabasai. It just doesn't work. I'm sorry.
It's possible, too, that these young guys have already peaked. It's possible, and that's a hard way to play if you're trying to compete and win trophies. It's difficult. I mean, you see a kid who's 16, 17, looks like a world beater, and then they just never seem to get off that hump. They just kind of stay there and they don't
Yeah.
develop. And it's not surprising. That's what professional sports is. The cream rises to the top. Not everybody's going to make it.
Yeah,
But you can't keep. You got a lot of Renato Sanchez's out there who may not actually. At 18, that's it.
Yeah, you hit, and they've hit really well, and then they've said they've said, okay, fine, we'll cash in. Thank you, Man City. Thank you, Premier League, for all your money. We'll take it, and we'll just replace them like almost like like an auto worker. Like, oh, we'll put him on the line, and we'll give him a job and the assembly line, and he'll crank the wrench, and he could do it just as good as the guy before him. And they've learned that they don't always hit, and that's okay. Like, Leipzig have hit a lot, a lot, like, and they made a lot of money on their scouting, and then this year just didn't do it. Didn't work out and then look, we talk about that, and they're still going to make Champions League. Like, it's like this is a good thing. And Stead, you talk about that race. I think that's one race to keep in mind. But the other race is who's going to get the last European spot. Because you got Frankfurt, you got Augsburg. My goodness, Augsburg out of all places, and then Hoffenheim, and then Freiburg. So the last three I mentioned, Augsburg, Hoffenheim, Freiburg, all sit on 36 points, and you got Frankfurt who's sitting on 42. That's two matches.
Hey, 2 weeks can change everything.
2 weeks can change everything. It's going to be a race over there. So that should be exciting in itself. And Heidelheim sits in 10, and it's a 10th at 33 points. I mean, like, they could make it interesting for all I know. Look, they beat good old Bayern, for crying out loud. Like, they're on a cloud 9. All right. So this league is wacky, and I love this league. This despite my fellow fans, getting banned from the Emirates Stadium, which we still made it in there, by the way. You can't keep us. You Brits can't keep us away. Even though we can't drink beer in the seats. And look, it's instead, I guess we could do a nice little segue into the Champions League.
Well, that was the next thing, is Champions League. Yep.
Yeah. So man, let me tell you, we have I feel bad for Alphonso Davies, because Saka was just taking him to school. Actually, everybody who played on that side was taking him to school. Ever since the breakup last summer with him and Jordan Heitema, he has just been awful. And he has a girlfriend now, a very model-esque girlfriend, typical European, plastic.
Yeah, but see, he's used to dating a player, and he needs somebody who knows how to talk tactics when he comes home, who could tell him what he's doing wrong.
He needs someone down to earth.
Yeah.
Jordan Heitema was like, I'm gonna put on a comfy sweater and veg on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. This one over here is taking them out of town. They need to get dressed up. Tight jeans.
That never works for these guys. It never works.
And
like, Davies, I'm married to a track girl, man. Trust me, I'll never go that route.
and Davies, on the other hand, he's also distracted sporting wise with this flirtation with Real Madrid. And I know that it's tough. It's tough to deny the Blancos kid. I know it's historic, right? And they're gonna make him a lot of money. But man, he has a funny way of showing that he wants to go over there, because if they watch his film for the last 2 months, they're gonna say thanks, but no thanks. Stay over there. I mean, and for all we know, maybe David needs to change the scenery. And that might be it's a modern game. Players will stay where they'll stay one place off long enough. So maybe that's it. But the rest of the Bayern lineup, like, Sane's like battling through injury. Coman just came back. Gnabry got hurt despite scoring a goal. And let's be fair. Serge Gnabry is the king of London, because
of course he is.
Yeah, look,
I'm still mad they sold him. I'm still mad about it.
If you took what he did, actually, no, at one point after 1920 Champions League season, during that season, Serge Gnabry scored more goals than in London than like the attacking players of Arsenal, and they played more. So Serge Gnabry has destroyed Spurs, has has scored on Chelsea, and now he scored on the Gooners. And it was beautiful. He celebrated and everything. None of this. Not going to celebrate because they were
Look,
my
you don't
team.
celebrate if you're still in the same league. If you go to a different league, I think that's completely out of it.
I loved it.
Celebrate.
And then now he's hurt. He's hurt, by the way. Now he's going to be out for like a month. But yeah, and like like this game just showed me that maybe Arsenal are not the it team. Like or maybe the Premier League is taking a lot out of them. I'm not sure. Like it's I expect the Arsenal to score 3 to 4 goals here on a weekend Bayern side, but something about those bright lights of Champions League, Bayern just loves it and plays in it. I mean, they have suffered before. We all remember the Liverpool return leg at the Allianz. I know there was like a 0-0, 1-1 draw back at Anfield, and then we met to Germany, and then Liverpool spanked them handily. Because you know what it is, I think Bayern are starting to realize that maybe they don't have the talent or the speed or the motivation to play the game that they're used to, which is possession ball, attacking. This match against Arsenal, you saw them play more defensive, go on a counter, use their fast players, and it worked out well for them.
Of course, because Arsenal made the colossal mistake to do exactly what Chelsea Mike said they should not do, which was start Kai Havertz at center forward.
I will tell you, it's tough. It's tough to
Never
like
a good idea.
I saw that and I was like, oh God.
It is tough to say that because Kai Havertz has been playing well.
It doesn't matter.
I know.
It matter.
It's really
I saw that and I was like, no, you don't start Kai Havertz at a position he has so rarely played this year. It was poetic justice. I'm sorry.
And how much of that is because they're trying to figure out how to play the league. Like, you gotta keep people fresh.
No, the problem is that Arsenal does not have a goal scorer. Arsenal does not have a center forward. Look, there are a lot of Gabriel Jesus stands better. And I was happy they brought him in because of the way he was affecting the game. He was the center forward who could get the ball at his feet, attract a lot of defenders, make a lot of noise, disrupt. And then he got hurt. And then he got hurt again. And then he got hurt again. And now you're seeing a player who just can't do it anymore. He needs a significant amount of time to heal before I think he can get back to that point. And this is his last chance to really do so because he's still in his mid-20s. If he was 28, 29, having played this many games, you can't play forever. You can't. Like when you start and when you end your career, that should be your age. And he started when he was like, what, 12 or something like that? I mean, I was shocked last year when I was like, wow, he was only 25. I thought he was around a lot longer than that. Well, he has been around a lot longer than that. He's just started really young. And so you are scrambling to try to find someone to fill that role to play against the side that had backed up a little bit, that was letting you have the ball a little bit. And Kai Havertz is just Kai Havertz. Kai Havertz does the best when nobody seems to be depending on him. That's when he seems to play well. The moment you put him at center forward, you're now depending on Kai Havertz. And I just don't think he's that kind of player.
Kai Havertz to a T.
And all right, so Stead, we have the result, right? And I know us Bayern fans are really confident, because we're gonna have our fans
As
there.
you should be.
We're gonna have our fans there. We're gonna be loud. There will probably be a large tifo saying "F you" to UEFA. But before we even talk about the next game, we gotta talk about this penalty, this handball, that has driven Thomas Tuchel up the wall. Like he's acting more Waluigi than he normally does. Okay, so let's say I put it in the chat, and I don't know if you saw it, but I would describe it to the listening audience here. So pretty much, it is a goal kick. So the keeper, I forget the keeper's name. Who's your keeper?
David Raya.
Raya rolls the ball to a defender. That defender, I think Raya kicks the ball. The defender picks up the ball and then rolls it back to Raya. So technically, by the rules of the game, Raya started to play, and by his goal kick, he kicked it to a player, and he picked it up with his hands, and then in the penalty box.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, it's a penalty, right? So the referee had made it seem like it was a child mistake. No intention was done. Blah blah blah. So, but Thomas Tuchel's like, well, look, the rules are the rules. And Thomas Muller said it too. Like, the rules are the rules. He picked up the ball in the box. Now we all know he didn't mean it. We all know his intention was not to, do anything deceiving. He was trying to get the ball to Raya back because he's like, hey, look, you got to start the goal kick. But Raya already started the goal kick, so technically it's a penalty. So Stead, you saw the replay. So tell me, what are your feelings?
I just say this: if that happened to Bayern, Tuchel and Mueller would have nothing to say. So for me, it's a non-issue. It's a non-issue. Of course, you're going to complain. Tuchel, you're supposed to complain about that because it was an opportunity for your guys to steal a win on the road and go up 3-2. Of course, you're going to complain because you're seeing the big picture of the whole thing, and you just want to win and get out of there, up a goal. Why wouldn't you? I'm not mad at Tuchel for complaining. I'm not mad at Mueller for complaining. But it's a non-issue. As Rob, you explained it best. There was no reason. It gave no advantage to Arsenal. It was an honest mistake. And it's like, if they called that penalty, you'll see, it wouldn't happen in this game, of course, but you see YouTube videos of like great sportsmanship, and you'll see a penalty given for something that's really undeserved, and the other team just kick it out of bounds. I think it was South Korea had a penalty at the very end of the half, and it was in a World Cup match. And I forgot who they were playing. I think it was the Netherlands, but I could be mistaken. And they just kicked it out of bounds. And they were like, "Oh, great sportsmanship." But it's also like you can obey the letter of the law. But for the game that we watch, where so many things are down to interpretation, because it's so tight, it's so close, and the rules are also changing constantly, and you can't get anything consistent. I still don't know what a handball is, which is like the basis of the game. Is you can't use your hands. Like, that's the whole point of the game, is you cannot use the one thing that gives us a genetic advantage over every other species on the planet, is being able to have opposable thumbs and use our hands. Well, you can't use those, okay? And because we still don't know what a handball is, for the whole purpose of the reason why this game is so popular, lets you know it's up to interpretation. And I do not begrudge Tuchel for making a stink about this. I think if it wasn't Tuchel, I think it's the fact that it's Tuchel just makes it so much worse, because he's such a prick. And it's like, you would expect this from Tuchel. But again, I think it's a non-issue. I'm glad that it was a story for a little while, but it seems like it's already kind of like died out.
Yeah, it died. And I just want to, before, I would love to get the opinions of the professor and Chelsea Mike.
Absolutely.
Before I give it over to them, it reminded me a lot when Danny Olmo, I think it was a Super Cup game, or it could be a league or Super Cup, I forget which one, but Danny Olmo is dribbling, and he stops the ball with his feet at the line, at the out of bounds line on the side, like towards like the left back position for Bayern. And Lucas Hernandez picks it up because he thinks it's out of bounds. The referee is watching the ball, like he's like a laser beam looking at the ball. The minute Lucas Hernandez picks up the ball, the referee blows the whistle. It's a handball, and then now Leipzig gets a free kick out of it. It is the most playground thing I've ever seen in my life. Lucas Hernandez is like puzzled. He's like, what did it do? And the ref's like, you touched the ball. It wasn't out of bounds.
Yeah.
The ball was still in play.
Right.
It was the funniest thing. So Professor Matt, what did you think of the video? Please, some of you saw it. What is your opinion on it? And is Tuchel right to be upset?
By the letter of the law, if we want to go, dare I say, Rain Man officiating. Yeah. But here's the thing. It didn't interfere with anything. And again, I think the fact that it was Tuchel, the fact that he made such a large deal of effectively a non-deal, is why we're talking about it. I was watching the City Real Madrid match, and we'll talk about that, I assume, in a little bit. I saw it only the next day, and I was just like, oh yeah, I mean, technically that is a handball, but it why would this again? I think a lot. And is Tuchel wrong for making us think about it? Hell no. It's your job as the opposition manager to try to get any advantage you can. But no, it's a whole mess about nothing, which is nothing. Uh, and I mean, I guess if it was called, or I'd get the spot kick. But look, Bayern has to be. I don't know about your feelings, Rob, but you have to be feeling pretty good coming out of the tie in London. I mean, second leg in Munich, and I don't know. But no, I just have to concur with what has already been said. By the letter of the law, okay, yeah, sure, but what it's a penalty for what now exactly?
Mhm.
So my thoughts, Rob, are I don't care. I wouldn't have given it. But but Thomas Tuchel, he's out there, he's showing passion. He's not being weird. I'm like, what did you do to my man? What have you done to him? How have you hurt him? Why isn't he just out here being real weird about it like he always is?
But Mike, isn't this so on brand for Tuchel to be passionate about something this stupid, and therefore doesn't it dovetail to be weird?
I mean, pretty much the only other time I could think of where he was that bad, like, was against Tottenham, and that was a bit excessive. I guess if Antonio Conte is not around, he's just weird and
Pretty just weird, not aggressive.
yeah. No, so you can't decide a game like that on a. They call it a child's mistake. It's just it was a. It could almost be argued that the ball didn't cross the 6 yard line. I don't think it technically has to now. I mean, when I played, it had to be outside the 18.
Outside the 18, yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't.
Yeah.
If my team lost a game like that, I would be livid.
Oh, I'd be livid. I'd be livid too. You have to let players. You have to let people have kind of like those little mental gaps every now and then, where it's like, oh wait, no, it's not. Especially when it's so inconsequential. But again, if Bayern did that, yeah, I think in my gut I would be upset, but I wouldn't be upset at a no call. I would be upset as that was our opportunity to probably win this game and we didn't get it. That would make me more angry than saying that it was like a bad officiating. I think it's just more of a fan frustration because you just want to win, as opposed to saying that something was like you were cheated or it was wrong. Especially as, look, Arsenal never get penalties. so I'm trying not to be that way, but look at the data, it's true.
Yeah,
So
at the other end of that spectrum, we don't want penalties. Like, no penalty. We're done. No penalties
No
for
penalties.
Chelsea ever. We don't need them.
And I'm thinking, I guess, as an EPL fan first, and the level of incompetence of the refs that we have to deal with. And if an EPL ref had not made this call, I would have actually been my line on this would be the same. I'd be like, well, that was inconsequential. I mean, if you really want to deep it, okay, word, but like it it wasn't like a guy who clearly wasn't onside, off
Mhm.
sides.
Right.
Oh, and you think he's onside because there's a part of his anatomy that we're not looking at,
Yeah.
like or a guy gets, kicked in the, throat, and it's like, nah, that was an accident.
Yeah. It wasn't a Nigel de
Yeah,
Jong jump
it
kick, you
wasn't
know?
something like, it wasn't something like I've had to witness this year. So no, it's
Mhm.
really it's
Yeah.
not a big deal. And again, it's two-legged going back to Bayern, and you gotta be feeling good about yourself.
Yeah.
Hey,
I'm just really happy that
if anything, Tuchel making a deal out of it may have lit more of a fire in
yeah.
Bayern's ass. Like, we are agreed.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm just saying the ghosts of Bayern Munich have haunted Arsenal for a very long time, and I'm just my saving grace is I'm happy they don't count away goals anymore. I did not agree with that rule until I'm on this side of it, and I'm going, I actually like this rule now because now I'm going, hey, I still think Arsenal have the best defense in England and one of the best defenses in Europe. So hopefully they can figure out a way to squeak out a 1-0 win. But Harry Kane knows how to score against Arsenal, and he did it again. And so, but it's I'm remaining optimistic because this is probably one of the best Arsenal squads we've had in a very long time, and I just don't want to lose faith that we'll leave the season trophyless because, as we are about to discuss, maybe not this week, but in the future, that I think that the the powers that be are going to shift slightly, and I think there's going to be more teams in there, but. Rob, do you want to say anything about the next leg of this match before we move on?
I'm nervous because it's Arsenal. They're talented. They're well coached. This team, this Bayern team, this season has shown to have mental lapses. And I'm afraid that the players will want to play an attacking style at home. They got to give the audience, the Bayern way, right? And not the pragmatic way, which Tuchel probably want. This is really tough to pick out because I think Arsenal are susceptible to a counter. I think they've really have not played a team like this. This is the wounded animal in Bayern. So this is a toss up. Like honestly, like this will be the money line. This will be like an even or pick 'em. This is really hard. I mean, obviously I'm gonna cheer for my folks, and I think they'll pull it out and it will be very very awesome if they pull it out because once again, no matter how good Arsenal is, Bayern they play Bayern, it doesn't matter.
It's Bayern in Munich, and it's a European game.
Yep, bright lights Wednesday night.
Sorry, this has not been. Arsenal has to. I'll say this.
Is there something hard about beating Bayern
No, but
in Munich
I'm wearing a hockey shirt
the-
because this was
in
the
the
last.
Champions League?
I'm wearing a hockey shirt because this was the last clean long sleeve shirt I had in my closet. But when Caps won the and this is a sport we probably never talked about in the show, and it's funny that the black dude is going to be the one to talk about it. But when the Caps won the Stanley Cup, and they had to beat Pittsburgh to win that cup, it was almost like that cup would not have been as good had they not beaten Pittsburgh. And so I kind of feel this way as, look, if you're going to get to the finals in this competition, beat Bayern Munich. You know what I mean? Just if you're going to do it if you're going to finally get over the hump, because, Caps had horrible playoffs experiences, even though they've had really good teams. And if Arsenal, if you're going to semi, if you're going to final, you got to beat Bayern Munich. You just got to do it. And there's no question about it. There's none of this. And the funny thing is, other Arsenal fans, I don't hear anybody saying, why do we have to draw Bayern? I'm mostly hearing people going, we knew this was coming. You're gonna have to do it at some point. Let's see if this is the year we can finally get over the hump. So we'll see. Rob, I feel very similarly to you. I think that if there was a year that you would want to play Bayern, it would be this year. But again, though, it's Champions League. It's a completely different animal. I mean, Chelsea, look, y'all won Champions League when you finished 8th in the Premier League, and you still won it that year. And who'd you beat? You beat Bayern Munich. So,
Munich.
I'm just saying, my point is that anything can happen. Because look, I can see Arsenal squeaking out winning this 1-0. I can see Harry Kane scoring a brace in the first 20 minutes of the game and Arsenal crying themselves to sleep that night too. So I forgot I was the host. So let's put that to bed, and let's just give a quick recap of probably one of the better Champions League games that has happened recently with Real Madrid and Manchester City. Real Madrid go up early, City draws. But what I love is that it wasn't necessarily like one team was up. Bayern Rob's got to check out. Rob, thanks for joining us. We'll catch up with you next time. The good thing about this game was you didn't have a team that went up 3-0 and then the other team came back and drew 3-3. You didn't have a team that goes up 3-1 and another team comes back and draws a 3-3. You literally had 1-0, 2-1, or 1-0, 1-1, 1-2, and then 2-2, and then 3-2, then 3-3. That's really an exciting game. I feel like Real Madrid had a lot of chances to put this to bed early, but missed some really key opportunities. I think that could have really put them to bed. I think this game showed that City's got some things they got to work out. So go ahead and jump in if you all see that, because I'm like, y'all drew, but
this was a better Real Madrid squad, and they have issues too.
Mm-hmm.
They're effectively playing without a striker at this
right.
point. City would have been punished. Like I've said, and it's a shame because I don't know, but I look at, my team, I look at your team, Stead, and I'm like, man, if we could do a combined 11, we could take them down.
Absolutely.
Easily. Walk this league. But there's some issues with City.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this has to be said. He is a prolific goal scorer.
Mm-hmm.
But if he does not have the ball, Haaland offers nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Actually does nothing.
He does nothing.
He's
You're up.
Pure old school striker.
Mm-hmm.
Has no hold up play. He's not like my boy Darwin, where at least he's fast and will run at you weird. Like he doesn't do anything. And this is why De Bruyne I've said this before. If you took Rodri out, it's like a plug out of a bath, out of the bath. But this is why the likes of De Bruyne is so important, because if there is one guy they really miss, Mahrez, Zinchenko, Jesus, they were important in their own ways. It's Erdogan. They don't really have that other midfielder. And in this sense, it's where if one of the two of them has to miss time, they're out of whack. They have the best 6 in the world. They have a guy who may go down as the best 10/8 of this generation. They don't have a guy who can do both of those things. They don't have like what I guess you would say a prototypical 8 could do. I've always liked Kovacic, but he's not even the guy he was 2 years ago on that Champions League team, Mike. And I mean, Matheus Nunes, he looks like a lost boy there. And I don't know, is Foden hurt? because he had to get taken off.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
probably has something we don't know about, but I will say this. I mean, Foden is good.
He's
He's good.
he has risen to the occasion as
Mhm.
of late. And if you take him out of the equation too, then I don't know. Like the return leg is in Manchester.
Mhm.
So, say what you will about that. But that match, there's two things that I think you can take from that. The first thing is, and it's something I said in the chat, you can't count Real Madrid, regardless of the vintage, out of this particular.
No, you never can.
And this City team, it's a shame that we're one or two players away, and instead, I genuinely believe Arsenal's a striker away. If
Mhm.
you put Giroud from 4 years ago on
Don't even.
the team, this league's over.
I
It's over. Let's be real.
Giroud
This
is
was
still scoring goals.
Yeah.
He's still scoring goals. If we still, I would take 35-year-old Olivier Giroud right now.
I would.
Now, I would take.
I
Yeah,
would
we
too.
both would. We both would.
Yeah.
He's the most. I'm sorry. I'm only going to say this sentence. We'll get back to the topic. Olivier Giroud deserves his flowers, and he has never gotten his flowers. Arsenal fans were hating on him, and I'm like, you guys are crazy. What are you doing? Look, if he had, like, if Erling Haaland played like he plays, Erling Haaland would win the Ballon d'Or. If he just had that type of play, look, I don't like getting names on the back of jerseys, but I will get an Olivier Giroud jersey. I have always been a fan of his. And look, say what you want about that World Cup when they won and he didn't score, but he started every game. He is a problem. He's a problem. He knows how to play as a center forward and be effective in so many ways without having to just only score goals, where Holland doesn't know how to do that.
He's an old school big man that can also get the rest of the team involved.
Absolutely.
Haaland is literally just a bazooka.
Mm-hmm.
That's all he is.
Yeah, but Chelsea, Mike, you've seen this too, where you'll see a midfielder from the opposing team dribble up the field, and all of a sudden he gets tackled from behind. Who's got the ball? Olivier Giroud.
Yeah.
At 6'4". At 6'4". Okay. And you're going to say that guy can't play? Sorry. I'm done. Back to the game.
Effectively, this also exposes some of City's weaknesses. Like, this is, they're still probably the favorites. I'd say they are.
I'd say they are too, because they got lucky. They squeaked out of this game.
But they are not.
Maybe not,
but they are not overwhelming favorites, and I think this is what makes this particular vintage of the Champions League so interesting. There is one bracket that is, let's be real, all the heavy hitters. Ever that emerges from the other side, even if it's a Dortmund or, they're happy because they're like, we're going to play a wounded animal.
Yeah. Yep. We're the money in the bank guys, because you guys have been beating up on each other.
Someone who is going to.
Yeah. Uh-oh. I see Chelsea Mike making a face. Go.
Nope, no face. No,
he was
I
like,
mean,
uh-oh. Here you guys go whining again.
No. Yeah, you are. But it's to me, it's the unstoppable force versus the movable object, right? Late season Pep Guardiola versus Champions League Real Madrid. I do think Real have a shot here. They find a way. Europe in years they're not good.
Yeah.
In years they're struggling. They still somehow find a way. I don't think there's an inevitability about City that there has been in the past, in the league or in the Champions League. Yeah, I think they're weaker than I think that they would even like to admit, really. And it's true that they're not finding Haaland as much this year, which means they're doing a better job defending him in all competitions. So Well, wouldn't bet against Real Madrid here, you guys.
Yeah,
Stupid find a way in the Champions League.
I agree. I think that you have to give the slight edge to City simply because I think City didn't play the best game and they still were able to get a draw and even go up 3-2. So, but but also we all know this too. The Etihad is not much of a home field advantage for City. It's not. I mean, it's crazy that they still have to like sell tickets. And Madrid, as you said, and Ancelotti's still the coach. He's still there. He knows how to do it. He knows that league as well. Yeah, I'm not saying I think I'm giving City the advantage, but yeah, under no circumstances, like Chelsea, Mike, I agree with you. I would not count Real Madrid out, especially when it comes to this competition, because they know how to play. Matt, go ahead and jump in.
Well, and we've seen it. There's the Ancelotti factor, but it's like if you look on paper, you would say City.
Mm-hmm.
But there are so many of those guys, old heads on Real Madrid, who might disappear for a bit. And you kind of saw that the last 20 minutes in this last match.
Mm-hmm.
Modric has been ass this season.
Yeah.
Came on,
I forgot he was even on the squad.
but he made it different.
He's like 50 years old.
He is. I think he's like 39, 38 or 39.
But he looks the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, Croatian vampire man. But
stay out of the sun, baby.
but he made a difference there. And like that's the thing with Real. Like, I hate to bring up bad memories for me. 2017, 2018. Bale did nothing that whole year. He came off the bench and he was the best player on that pitch for 25 minutes. That's just what they do.
Yeah, I had a guy who's come on.
Forget are there, show up, and it's like, oh wow, you were that guy.
Yeah. We had a guy who used to come on this show, and he would basically reiterate often how this is the main thing that Real Madrid care about, and for some reason they're just able to get up for this tournament in a way that they don't always do for domestic competitions. That's going to be a very fun game to watch, and it's going to, if it's on at the same time as the Arsenal, as I'm telling you, look, if Harry Kane scores a brace in the first 20 minutes, I'm watching the other game. I'm like, all right, I'm done. I don't need to put myself through this because there's no point. But I will stick to what I said last week. I will punt the Premier League trophy if Arsenal can win this competition. If they can win Champions League, I will punt it right into the Thames, man, no problem. And so I should say this, Arsenal fans, listen good. We have been out of this tournament for a very, very, very long time. Let's just enjoy the ride, and hopefully we can stay for a while too, because I feel like you have the thing that's been missing from this club for the longest time is you actually have a manager. You have a manager who can handle a club like Arsenal, and it seems as if you have an ownership group who's actually willing to spend some money. And because that wasn't the case with this family earlier. So again, we'll see. I do think though, look, if we're in early October and we're 6 games into the Premier League season after international breaks and Chelsea's sitting on 18 points, I won't be surprised. That's what I was I'm sorry, like Chelsea, Mike, look, you have the talent there. I think that for me, I will admit, I thought Poch would be able to handle that team, and he's not there. But if you look at where Chelsea is right now, Chelsea is still, you guys are 8 games left. You have a game in hand. Okay. You're on 44 points. If you win, you're even with Newcastle on points. And who's ahead of you? West Ham, who we know West Ham is West Ham. And for some reason, I have no idea how is Manchester United still in 6th place? Because they look horrible. I was like, they're in 6th? I thought they were behind Wolves. But apparently they're winning games that I don't seem to pay attention to. But I think it goes what you were saying, Chelsea, Mike, where you see the Man U fans on the chat and they just talk about how horrible they are. It's like
oh my God. Europe, it's so constant. Look, and it's not just the Manchester United fans who we talk to. It's in general, in their public. They're like, you know what? I think the only thing that they can get up for is hating on their ownership. Like,
Yeah.
that's it. That's the only passion they
Yeah,
have.
and now apparently the stadium.
Right. Well, the Field of Dreams,
the 76,000 seater stadium. Yes,
Yeah.
Wembley Part 2.
But no, so I have to say that Chelsea won one of the most amazing matches of football I've ever seen in my entire life. Probably it was better because I was on my side. But Chelsea go up, they won the game. Then they lost the game. Then in two real-time minutes, they won the game again. And it was definitely a penalty. I'm sorry, we already talked about it with Rob. If you clip someone's foot in the box, it's a penalty
it's
nowadays.
a penalty.
It's always going to be.
Stay on your feet. Don't slide tackle. Just don't tackle. Don't slide tackle. Just don't do it.
Yeah, don't get beat.
Yeah.
Don't get beat. And
Yeah.
Thiago Dalot, who got beat, gave up that penalty, gave up the second goal because he got too happy-go-jumpy trying to score the winner. And Chelsea came back like 5-on-1 when the ball comes to the feet of Raheem Sterling, which is not where you want it. Finds its way for a looping shot, deflected out. Cole Palmer scores the winner. Elation. It's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in my life. But the Manchester United reaction to this was, oh, it wasn't a great game. We can't win. We're not doing anything. And then they go and draw top of the table Liverpool away.
Away, yeah, at Anfield.
That was at Old Trafford.
No, it was at Old Trafford.
Old Trafford. Oh, okay.
But you draw the top of the table team, your biggest rival. Like, you took them down, you brought them out of the and the reaction, oh, we should have won. It's not like we used to be. It's like first of all, you had a honest to God moment where you could hate your players when they just gave up and let Chelsea win. You show that hate. Hate your players. It's not your owners. It's your players. Your players are not good enough. Marcus Rashford's out there loafing around against Chelsea.
Yeah, he was.
And he needs, they need to sell him.
I agree.
United needs to sell him. He needs new plays.
I think he needs to go. Yeah. And I'll tell you this, and I don't want him. I don't want him at Arsenal.
I don't want him.
I don't want him at Arsenal. No. You want him at Liverpool.
The human being.
He needs to go to Everton or West Ham. That's where he needs to go.
No. And it's so bizarre too, because a lot of it is structural. But see, Chelsea Mike, I love your reaction to this and also to your team because it's the correct reaction. I saw this malaise in the Liverpool fan base for so long. It's glory days syndrome. We used to be good.
Mm-hmm.
We can't really explain or deep why we're not good.
Mm-hmm.
So we're just going to be like, we used to be, we used to be this, but instead, you probably saw some of it within the Arsenal fan.
Look, we used to always say this, guys, Thierry Henry's not coming back, guys.
Yeah, and
it's not coming back.
That's over. We have to deal with the present.
And you know how bad it was when he came back and scored that one goal in the FA Cup, and everybody lost their minds. And I was like, guys, he's not coming back. He plays in the MLS. He's not coming back.
Third time with Kenny Dalglish as the manager.
Right.
No, that expired a decade
over.
ago.
Sir Alex Ferguson is not coming back.
Oh, man, just deal with it. There are structural issues, but don't
think that if you fix the structural issues, you're going to be winning 4 out of 5 Premier League titles.
Exactly.
Not going to happen.
And I think that's the sort of disconnect because, and I actually feel bad for Eric Ten Hag because I think he was hired as a project guy. The worst thing that happened was them winning the League Cup last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I really think that screwed with his sense of what he was there to do, the ownership and the fan base. Because I think they all were like, oh, we're back now. You're not back. This is a project. This is going to take 2-3 years. That's where I have to say I will give the Cronkies or young Cronky credit.
Yeah.
Arteta could have gotten fired 3 or 4.
Young Kroenke went to his dad and was like, "Can I just do this, please? I actually would like to win with this team." And Dad's like, "Oh, okay." Chelsea might go ahead.
But that's what, Professor Matt. I mean, that's where Liverpool can be inspiration, right? For them, like you guys successfully pulled off a rebuild with just some small sort of inexpensive pieces that just fit right? And okay, you don't trust Ten Hag to do that. Well, you're not getting Alex Ferguson back. Like it's not going back to 98. You're not playing on mud pitches with teams that can't afford to keep them up anymore. Like every team is going to be good in the Premier League.
That's true.
Now. Like
You're exactly right about that.
But you don't need Alex Ferguson. You don't need. We don't need. Trust me, we don't need Jose Mourinho, and there will be fans of my fan base that will call it back. Manchester United just needs the right pieces and some players who care in the tough moments too.
Well, that's what it seems like to me. It seems like the players that they're bringing in just aren't as good as they expect them to be.
No.
Go ahead, Matt.
I think that's part of it. I think, Mike, you sort of hit on it. But it's bringing in the right pieces and having enough discipline to stay with a manager so he can build the culture. There's no culture at United anymore.
Yeah.
So
just like there wasn't one at Arsenal for a long time.
Some of the players aren't as good, but like I'm bringing up glory days now. The 5-0 at Old Trafford. My favorite part of that was when they brought on Paul Pogba, and it was right before the international break, and he had dreadlocks that were the tricolore. He was straight up. He was thinking about France already. He got on the pitch. 5 minutes later, he was handed a red card and left the pitch, and he was just like, "Oh, word! I get to go to France and chill with my homeboys. I want to fucking be here." That's what they have at this point. And like you kind of see that when they're up, it's okay. But when they're down or when they're challenged, it's some of the young guys, you see that. This young player they have, Mabu, the young midfielder. He looks like he could be something. But like Rashford, he has to go because he just, unless they're winning, he just kind of loafs around. He doesn't necessarily want to be there. Maguire's there by default. They want him to leave. He doesn't want to leave.
They keep trying to sell him.
Yeah, he's on a good paycheck, and it's like, okay, I'm not captain now. Cool, no responsibility, right? So like,
let's go get drunk.
Yeah, or go to Cyprus, get hookers. But like, it's really a case of sticking with a project and building that. And I think the same thing can be said about Chelsea. But the thing is, I think the ownership change was why Graham Potter happened. It was like, manager, so we're going to get the best guy now.
Right.
Poch, I think there's actually, okay, he doesn't have to win anything this year as long as we see improvement. And because we self-snitched on ourselves in terms of financial fair play, and there might be ramifications, we have this young squad, we have this manager in place. Let it ride. With United, I'm never sure. All I'm hearing is, oh, when the Euros are over, Southgate is going to take that job. And it's like, why? Why? I don't think he's even going to be a very good club manager. I appreciate what he's done at the international level. I don't think I don't really see a tactician there. McGuire,
yeah.
like I think that would be an incredible mistake.
Yeah. Well, Chelsea, Mike, I wanted you to give me a quick recap of the lower leagues, but we got to start wrapping up. I was planning on doing an hour, and then we didn't even hit all the topics I wanted to hit. But this was a fun show. This was a very fun show, and I just want to also just thank you, the two of you especially, because you two and Rob. You guys are always holding down the show, and it's a lot of fun chatting with you guys. And I think that's why I've been much more focused on Bundesliga than I have been other leagues, because it's like I got somebody to explain everything to me. So speaking of explanations, Chelsea, Mike, give us just a quick rundown of what the lower leagues look like, because their seasons are wrapping up rapidly, and we're getting to probably some of the most fun games to watch in world football, which are the games that end up at Wembley at the championships for the promotion from Championship and promotion from League One. Those are just fantastic games, and I think we can all, if you haven't watched this clip, go back. It's not even at Wembley. Go back and watch when Troy Deeney scores that winning goal for Watford against Leicester.
Oh my God,
which is one of the greatest moments.
If you're ever down, if you ever need a pick me up moment, because Watford were going to lose. They'd given up a penalty.
Yep.
And then Troy Deeney. Oh my God.
Yep. And I think that was Neil Maupay who missed that penalty too. So that makes me which makes me even happier, because I'm still mad at you hurt Burnley on that day. But go ahead, Chelsea, Mike. Yes, you need to pick me up. Go watch that. You will smile. I guarantee you will feel better, and you will understand why Troy Deeney had as long as a career as he had when he was scoring 2 goals a season to wrap up his time. But no disrespect, nothing but love for Troy Deeney.
I'm gonna go watch that right after this. Yeah. Actually, let's do rapid fire through the lower leagues.
Sounds good.
Top of the championship. Who wants to win it? Nobody. All 3 teams dropped points over the last week. Leicester now on top. Ipswich, bad loss to Norwich City. They needed that one, but so did Norwich. Norwich has pretty much solidified the final spot in the playoffs with that. And over Coventry. Interesting fact, Coventry are in the FA Cup semifinals. That weekend, they were supposed to play Ipswich Town. So Ipswich will have to play 3 times in the final week now. They're at a distinct disadvantage. Watch that at the top. At the bottom, Sheffield Wednesday, big win Saturday. Takes them level on points with Huddersfield, only behind on goal differential. Also, it dropped Birmingham down because Plymouth and Huddersfield all won over the weekend. We might finally see Birmingham go down. We talked about it last show. Birmingham never seemed to go down. They might actually go down this time. Sheffield Wednesday might miraculously stay up. Let's go real quick. League One, Portsmouth all but won it. Congrats,
Pompey.
Portsmouth.
Go ahead, Pompey. Way to get back in there.
All but won it. Carlisle technically eliminated this weekend. So sad to see you go, Carlisle.
Chelsea, Mike, though, just really quickly, just to give me 30 seconds, comment on Derby. How about that? That's a great story. Comment on that real quick.
Well, I mean, it is a good story. They never really, when they were sent down on the points that they were deducted for all their financial misgiving. So they always kind of had talent. I mean, Wayne Rooney brought in his boys who they couldn't pay anymore, so they sort of wandered off. But the culture and the talent at Derby County it's been there. This is their second year back in League One. And it's good to see that they might go up. They are not out of the playoff woods yet.
No.
Bolton sit right below them.
With a game in hand, too.
Right, with the game in hand. But yeah, no, after last year where they were not really in the discussion for an automatic promotion, they've been able, their new owner came in. They actually made a good pick. He's committed to the side winning, and they've started their turnaround.
Okay.
To
Good stuff.
maybe one day get back to the EPL and do better than they did the last time. All right,
So
let's finish the rapid fire. Wrexham have won and put themselves in the catbird seat. This weekend they're playing against Forest Green, a team that needs a win like the desert needs the rain. Two sides owned by really rich people with really specific agendas. Forest Green, its last chance saloon this weekend against Wrexham. That game's not on US TV. Sorry. Ryan Reynolds doesn't get everything he wants all the time. But Wrexham, 3 matches left, 5 points up in the automatic promotion spots. They're looking good for League One next year.
It's the Forest Green story is it's sad. I mean that they were in League One. Was this a year ago?
If they leave the league this year, I will do. I will do an edited video with music behind it.
Absolutely.
With like the kind of like shifting background.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll do an edited video on
especially
Green
after that wild game where they were able to secure promotion.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was the most nuts football. It looked like a high school game. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. But it was exciting. It was fun to watch. But well, thank you for that, Chelsea Mike. So we're gonna go ahead and wrap up here. This has been much more than I expected. We went 45 minutes over, but that's quite all right. Quite all right. But I want to give a special thanks to Bayern Rob for giving us our Bundesliga report as well as recapping Champions League and us leading into the big matches coming up for the second leg. Professor Matt, as always, the dulcet tones about the various aspects of Liverpool that we appreciated. Hopefully, as we get more into leagues wrapping up, we can make some more time because I love hearing your anecdotes about what's going on over in Eastern European football. Chelsea might keep the lower league reports coming. This is when it gets a whole lot of fun to pay attention to what's going on below the Premier League. And, I know recently when the Premier League was all but done by this time of the year, it's good for English football to have this much going on outside of just simply who's going to be crowned champion. So I'm Stead, and so for the Too Many Guys Soccer Show, Mike, hopefully we'll get you back next week. And for everybody listening, thank you very much and have a great evening. We did all right this week. We'll do better next week.